I mean, I'm excited about this one. I wanted to learn about this years ago, and Thoth is about to I'm smiling ear to ear. He says it's time. It's time. It's time to share about time. He's giving me certain key understandings that feel unique and important, and they function as like anchors. And so I know that I'm focusing in on these, and then I'm going to start to channel, and it'll unfold from there. And I get to learn more than I've ever known. And apparently, a couple years ago, I wasn't ready. It wasn't time, and now it's time to learn about time. There is one critical element we want you to understand now. What you know as time is measured. The measurements you use create a track. You ride the track of time over the course of your lives. And over the course of many lives, stories are created. They are sequential, and yet the sequences, in many ways, were laid down well before you lived them. When you embrace and internalize a false comprehension of what time is, you misunderstand minutes and days and years for time itself. These are measurements that function in relationship to the motion of the celestial bodies, primarily the earth on which you live. The earth follows a sequential path on a track. We are able to influence and even shape this track well before you ride on it. You must separate out different elements in your understanding in order to recognize what is real. Time is not your measurements of time. Your measurements of time are not as finite as you may think. This is the second, and in some ways the more important element I have to teach you today. It is common for beings to make side tracks. You are able to experience life in the in-betweens. And thus, a minute to one person is not the same as a minute to another person. This is a fundamental comprehension. Without it, you cannot clearly see everything else that is occurring. Dissolve your sense that you are all living in the same way, covering the same time. Your relationship to time can be very different than someone else's. This is not just a function of objective or subjective beliefs. Yes, it means that some people have a richer experience of time. But this is actual. They are literally present during more moments in a manner that deepens their experience of being alive. You could measure this if you knew how, because the resonance that is left behind by your presence is vastly different for someone who is essentially skipping the opportunity to take these sidetracks. The small function of this experience is that day to day, you are more aware. You are more capable of experiencing a rich array of life. The deeper expression of this dynamic is that you can actually experience years in a night. The function of the night and the day is crucial to your understanding here. Your entire relationship to reality is built around this dynamic. You have a night and you have a day. You have sleep and then you have wakefulness. It is possible to organize consciousness in very different ways, sleeping for what you would think of as months and staying awake for what you would experience as months. That you are participating in a life where sleep is a crucial part of every night means that you have accepted the foundation of this time. And again, this time is unique to what you are. And this is where we go deeper. Your comprehension of how you got to where you are is crucial in formulating your understanding of where you are going next. I am sorry when I tell you that you have, most likely, been holding a false comprehension of what it is to be alive. Evolution is essentially not real. The vast track of change that has occurred on this planet has been highly influenced by Gaia herself. She makes choices. They are not random. She creates space for beings that are growing and learning to make choices yourselves. This has shaped the transformation of species after species. She will purposefully inject herself into the arc of development and change things. It isn't random. There has been space for changes that were not generated primarily by her focused central consciousness. I say this because she does have a focused central consciousness. Yet it would be inappropriate to say that everything else that occurs within her sphere isn't her. Part of her desire for life itself is to expand the range of what is possible. And she does this by generating possibilities and setting them into motion and putting them into positions where they can explore beyond her limits as they have been. This is fundamental because in many ways she knows where stories go well before they develop. You cannot fully embrace this without separating your understanding of the linear track of time from the sequence that would relate you to the time at which you arrived here. Some sequences are independent and some sequences are central. This enables some sequences to loop without interfering with longer term and more central sequences. These are all occurring within what you think of as time. The path ahead is shaped much like your DNA. The path itself is a spiral. As you gaze into the mechanisms that maintain this spiral, you can see what essentially amounts to stories that exist before they are lived. Thus, major elements of energy arrive and major elements of energy leave. Shifts occur that look like changes in hue or the shift in the beat of a song. You need to use both of these metaphors to fully comprehend that some of these foundations for your life experience are not subject to change. There's nothing you can do. The foundation of the story was written, and thus, whether or not it gets expressed in one way or another may still be up to you. But the fact that these energies will be expressed is not up to you. They come into being, and you may ride them or you may get crushed by them. This is the functional gift. You must reconceive your place here, understanding that you were incarnated into a story that in many ways has vast ranges of space to be told by you. The more thoroughly you accept the key elements that you cannot change, the more you will be exposed to the ways you can change other vast areas of this.